Pacific Island Development Forum brings a new kind of cooperation. It set up for the first time a regional platform that is multi-stakeholder in nature. As you would know, most of the regional organizations that are operating in the Pacific, they may be characterized as intergovernmental in nature and also issue specific. For instance, the Foreign Fisheries Agency, they deal specifically with tuna management, fisheries management and development. You have the Secretariat to the Pacific Regional Environment Program, SPREP for short. They deal specifically for environmental issues. And you have the Secretariat to the Pacific Community, which looks at a much broader set of specific issues. And of course, you have the Pacific Island Forum that looks at political and policy issues, security issues. But all these regional organizations are intergovernmental because only government officials attend their meetings, only government officials set the agenda for their meetings, and only government officials make decisions for this organization. What the Pacific Island Development brings to the regional architecture is a totally different platform. It's multi-stakeholder in the sense that it belongs not only to government officials, but also representative of the private sector and civil society. So it's aligned strongly with the new paradigm shift in sustainable development, because it is now universally accepted, acknowledged, and this is evident in the outcome of the Rio Plus 20 conference 2 years ago, that government no longer have the monopoly or the exclusive responsibility for sustainable development. It has to be a shared responsibility and shared with other key sectors of society. It can't be just government officials making decisions on behalf of Pacific community. It has to be a whole of community approach to sustainable development. The other major difference between the PIDF and the existing regional organization is that for the first time at the regional level, there is now an organization that is exclusively reserved for Pacific Island countries and territories only. As you may know, in other regional organizations, PIF, SPC, FFA, SPREP, you name it, they involved other developed countries. These developed countries tend to strongly influence the development agenda in those organizations. PIDF will be different because there will be no developed countries involved in the decision-making process. It will be reserved exclusively for Pacific Island countries and territories. So those are the different dynamics that the PIDF platform will bring to the sustainable development discourse in the Pacific. I happen to been in a privileged position because for the last 6.5 years before I took up this role at the PIDF in March of this year, I was the Deputy Secretary General at the Pacific Island Forum. And in my tenure at the Pacific Island Forum, I had the privilege to be involved in the last two Palm processes, Palm 5 in Hokkaido and Palm 6 in Okinawa. And so I'm quite familiar with the processes of the PAM, and I think in 2010-11 I was a speaker at a seminar that was held here in Tokyo, and I cited some of the procedural difficulties, procedural challenges that Pacific Islands encounter in terms of the PAM process. And the difficulties centered around elements of transparency in the process. There's always been a concern that the development agenda, which is the focus of the PAM process, is pretty much Tokyo driven. But I'm glad that, and I think it is evident in the last PAM, that there has been more consultations that have taken place. Message that we would like to tell not only the Japanese but also the other key development partners is that their development assistance need to be focused and targeted on development priorities that are set by Pacific Island countries, not by their own agenda or by their preference for certain project. So it needs to be geared and aligned strongly with the development agenda of the region. And the message is the same to China, Russia, India, that although their assistance is welcomed, but there needs to be consultations, discussions, and appreciations of what the country needs, rather than what the development partners are interested in putting their funding to. Well, I certainly don't want to pretend to be speaking on behalf of the Tuvalu government, but as a Tuvaluan, though small we may be, we do have a responsibility, just like any other member of the UN family, member of the Pacific family. We have to contribute and play our role. As you know, climate change is the major development challenge for Tuvalu. It's not a matter of economics or development. It's a matter of survival. And I think and I hope that the global community appreciate that perspective, that climate change is no longer a speculative phenomenon. It's on the ground. It's happening right now as we speak, and we've been very grateful that our Prime Minister, His Excellency Sopoanga, has been very active at the global scene and the regional scene. He's spoken very strongly and passionately about the plight of the people of Tuvalu, as we are definitely in the frontiers of the devastation of climate change. So, unfortunately for Tuvalu, the solution does not rest within our means. It needs a global response, and the best we can do is just make noise and keep on advocating the plight of our people, and hopefully the global community will respond kindly to those pleas. Speaking as a representative of the Pacific Island Development Forum, one of the key strategic principle upon which the PIDF is based is inclusivity, and we advocate for the engagement of civil society, including non-profit organizations like the Sasakawa Peace Foundations. So, as I mentioned at the start, achieving sustainable development is the responsibility of all actors in a community. And your organization also play a part in contributing to the achievement of sustainable development. So we're looking forward to collaborating with the foundation, and where we can play a regional role in terms of facilitating some of your activities because of our broad base. We are not strictly intergovernmental. Our constituency is much broader, including representative of the private sector and civil society. Will be very, very grateful to be able to play that facilitative role if required.